daily mined for daily use, and taken pretty much for granted. Do you realize that if these wheels stopped, all the wheels of factory, mill, and transport would stop too? Coal may be, as they say, stored sunshine, but it is won in the shadows. It is won by men like these, who day and night work in the mines of Britain, producing 200 million tons of coal a year. Upon them, upon their courage and skill, depends the industrial life of our country.
Lobby in this demonstration should be used as a demonstration of solidarity against the pit closure programme.
Confrontation between miners and coal board over pit closures has led to the most bitter coalfield dispute for a decade. The strike has set miner against miner.
Families will be torn apart, and it was hard to see families fighting with each other.
But miners don't fight fellow miners easily. They say it's the NCB's fault, that you're actually setting them against each other by taking one mine's coal and reallocating it.
We see it as our job in management to plan our pits to make a profit.
She walked out to deliver her message of strong leadership of a strong country. She said it was a message she'd take to the World Economic Summit.
That what used to be the luxuries of the few should become the daily experience, indeed the necessities of the many. It's happening with homes, it's happening with shares, and it's happening with savings. And the result has been of greater prosperity. It's not only our standard of living that has increased, it means we've been able to put greater resources into health and social security. But you can only do that when you've first created the prosperity.
It was inevitable that the story of massive industrial progress should be fired by coal. The river was the first to export it, and millions of tons of coal are still feeding boilers and turning turbines halfway across Europe. Coal passes in and out on an endless conveyor belt flow.
Yes, that's coal, all right. Not all mining is done underground. In recent years, open cast working, which was quite common 200 years ago, has again been widely developed, and millions of tons are now being won in this way. With the vastly increasing needs of industry, it is here that the hidden gifts of coal are won. Every available ton of coal is needed.
77,000 tons of coal are consumed every day in this process of converting the stored-up energy of coal into electric power in huge modern generating equipment.
The New North has burst out of its old shell, creating thousands of new jobs and providing the workforce of millions with immense opportunities for the future.
And in the laboratories, skilled chemists extract from coal hundreds of useful commodities. These include the dye for the color of your suit, saccharin for the sweeter tooth, the elusive pair of nylons, and the aspirin for that beastly headache of yours.
The British people have realized more clearly than ever before that coal is the nation's lifeblood.
Above, the wheel turns swiftly. They seem to be in a hurry. So this is what they were running for. Something to wash the dust away. Coal and bread. Two essentials, both have to be cut. And nobody grudges the miner his extra rations. He needs them.
Well, the Cullion lad is a canny lad, and he's always of good cheer. And he knows how to walk, and he knows how to soak, and he knows how to sup good beer. Way it's doing the shaft on a Monday morning, the cable is the best. In a busty seam with Thompson's team, and a flat called the 14th West. Now the Fiesta's 105 yards long, and measured from York to York. And we're crawling all the Scotland's lads from doing I have to get stuff.
Oh, I think they're fantastic. It's a great hobby. I love it. dream about them, dream about them.
We're all interested in them now, but at first we thought, oh my goodness, you know, pigeons.
It's a religion to them, you know. They have 10 commandments. Thou shalt water thy leeks when thirsty, feed them when hungry, nurse them in sickness and health, you know. And I mean, you have this from morning, noon, or night. It becomes an obsession.
I love to come when it's pouring down with rain. I can give the leeks a feed and the rain takes it straight down and I get well and truly soaked outside. And then I go back to the local and I get soaked inside.
But remember, you can't understand a man or his religion unless you know something of his daily life. The roots of Methodism are deep in the hearts of these people, and in such a gathering, their best traditions are recalled and strengthened. Come along, let's see the miner at home. Ah, the flags are out. They're always out here. Every day is washing day when your menfolk are miners. If anyone is entitled to a regular supply of coal, it's surely the man who risks his life to get it.
These days, a warm and comfortable home is no longer a luxury, but an essential part of our everyday life.
This happier state of things is largely due to that social regeneration in which mining played so large a part. Life is good for the younger generation. Slag heaps are not beautiful things, but even they have their uses. Could any boy with a pair of trousers to wear out ask for anything better? Plenty going on, wherever you look.
No more rugged but kindly soul exists than the typical miner, but heavy workers need plenty of relaxation from their work.
In no section of the community are deep instinctive loyalties more powerful than among the miners. Here, public opinion is formed and finds expression. What's that? Oh yes, quite a lot of us can remember when you could get the best house coal for less than £1 a ton. But coal has never been cheap, except in price. In sweat and toil, in risk to life and limb, few commonplace things exact so heavy a toll.
If you didn't take pit work, there was nothing else in this district. There was the chemical works, but your father or your brother or your uncle or somebody had to work there, or else you didn't get a job there.
Like all of the other lads of 14, or nearly all of them, I was obliged to start working in the pits. We had to become men overnight, really.
And I'll never forget the first day that I went down that pit in that cage. I thought there was no rope on, because they hadn't the slow-running cages in them days. They just used to get you down. Well, man, I said, I wonder what I've done. I've got to be punished like this.
It was all real hard graft in them days, and it was up the knees of water coming down above, and no sanitation or anything in the pits.
Walking through slurry, the stink, the smell.
You're breathing dust all the time, and it's very unhealthy. And I would say a miner what's been in the mine for 20 years, he's bound to be affected by his chest and his lungs.
I'm a pitman, and I've got a bit of a wheeze when I talk because of pneumoconiosis, the miner's disease. They reckon I'm 30% incapacitated with it.
If I had my time to begin, I would never start down the pit no more. It's against the health of anybody. I was down 45 years altogether, and I'd had plenty.
props that are set like that, the wooden props, that when weight starts coming on, they were twisting and rocking out, and your heart just seems to stop, you know, and I wasn't cut out for it. I sent a chap in my place to cut the face that I should have cut, and he got killed.
Only a monument in the old Trimden village cemetery today recalls the tragedy of 1882. The explosion accounted for the lives of 74 men and boys. Nearly half of them were under 21, 8 of them under 13.
The explosion at Stanley, County Durham. It was a disaster which caused the deaths of 168 men and boys. It sapped the lifeblood of a generation of men from the community.
It's something where you're dicing with death every day of the week with an individual, and you get to know this. He becomes his marrow. This marrow system is something that is being destroyed by modern machinery.
And they just tear the coal out, and there's been quite a number of accidents.
A miner, despite all the improvements that's been made, never really knows when the next moment's going to be his last or not.
The coal owners wanted to work in truly appalling conditions for very low wages. They built mining villages which were slums, so we wanted to see the back of them, and so we welcomed nationalisation as the greatest event of our lives.
We plan to and will develop the coal mining industry in every possible way for the benefit of the miner and the nation as a whole.
When nationalisation was brought about, there was an immense shortage of coal worldwide.
There was to be a new pattern, a responsible employer acting in the joint service of the community.
The coal board got the council to build 60 new houses, and the village is a different place since the war. Very nice. The biggest majority of us are pitmen. Ellie Gibson, he keeps the local, as well as working in the pit. Tom Richardson, he's a deputy in the pit. And his missus, they've got a son, a pitman as well. And their youngest, Muriel, she's a very clever artist. She often draws miners. The welfare's the hub of the whole village.
Then in the end of the 50s, beginning of the 60s, we had the advent of cheap oil. The demand for coal dropped dramatically. The result was that we needed to reduce the industry substantially.
But nobody ever dreamed of this. We've always been led to believe that as long as there's a village, there'll be a pit.
Providing for nearly 15% of all the new factory jobs scheduled in the country as a whole. And we intend to see this job through.
Plenty of those who will listen to the speeches would probably go home and reflecting on the fact that there was no job to go to the following week.
For most of us, though, the home was there. It was the work that was missing.
Against the necessity for cutting production and, more important still, making our industry more efficient to compete against oil.
Are we to have gradual and efficient closures of redundant pits or instant death sentences with no appeal?
Wages have been kept down so much during the 60s because of the lack of demand for coal and the closure programme that that's the first thing that caused the 72 strike.
Well, there was a 58.8% majority voted for strike action. I think myself, if the vote had been taken a few weeks later after MPs and the Queen's rises had been announced, there would have been 100%, because there's 100% now.
And the miners are behind this strike now as they've never been before. There's miners' lives getting thrown on that fire, which should have been settled in 1926. But still, we're still fighting for a living wage.
We were successful in that action, and it brought about big changes in regarding not only wages but conditions. It was a step in the right direction.
Perhaps all members of the miners' union thought we are on our way, we've got a plan for coal, there's no more depression, no more redundancies, and we thought it was probably one of the most hopeful periods that we could look forward to.
Up to the 80s we've been expanding, and all of a sudden the board changed its plans and started reducing the manpower. It was inevitable. It's one of those principles, you either sat back and let it happen or stood and fight and make a stand against pit closures.
There was obviously a determination that the mine workers would be totally, utterly defeated and driven back to work.
It was Maggie Thatcher's boot boys, and they were breaking the strike, and I saw them putting the boot in.
At the beginning of the strike, class was never mentioned. As the miners' strike wore on, we realised this government had set out not only to destroy the miners' union, but to destroy our communities and our class basis.
Yes, I'm a miner's wife. I have been for most of my life. I say what I think that McGregory thinks. Yes, I'm a miner's wife.
My grandfather was a miner. My father was a miner. My husband's a miner. My 2 sons are a miner. And they are on strike now so that hopefully my grandsons can be miners. We're wholly behind our husbands and our sons in the fight. This has to happen. It has to happen. If they close the mines around here, we have nothing. Whole families will be out of work.
We do not know, but we'll hang on in until we win, 'cause victory is our goal.
Since the start of the strike, women have played a major role in coordinating fundraising events and the more pressing necessity of feeding miners and their families. Most families received very little money from the state while on strike. It was assumed the union was providing strike pay.
I think it's hard when you've got the children and everything they ask for is no, you can't.
It's just been hard for everybody, not being able to have much money. I think they should end strikes soon. But it's been depressing.
You know, we've just had to cut down. Things are a bit tight, but we're managing. We're all in high spirits. That's all that matters.
Well, I'm 100% at back of him. I think he's fighting for future at bits around here and for a job for us when we get older as well.
At first, the strike was pretty solid up here, but as time went on, a few began scabbing, often as a result of pressure and enticement from the coal board.
I decide when I go into work and, you know, when I come out. If there'd been a ballot, things would have been different.
I'm for strike. I'm for union. But I just couldn't manage like I was doing.
As men on picket lines are arrested, women have been taking their place. And in some cases, they too have faced arrest.
I never thought about trade unions or women's lib or anything. My life was my family. But since the strike, I've realised that's not the case.
And so now, for everyone in the coal industry, the longest year has come to an end. Tomorrow morning, the miners must start again to rebuild their industry and their lives.
But while the nature of the job doesn't change, mining is now a high-technology industry. Mining has at last become aware of the fact that prosperity in the coal industry must go hand in hand with the needs of the people who live in its shadow.
There's been a great revival of interest in the environment, whereas previously they wanted the tip because it ensured employment. Now they want the minimum disruption and they prefer not to have the tip.
We believe it's the most environmentally destructive process going on in the English countryside.
Well, anybody that's familiar with open cast mining will be able to imagine that whole valley behind me will be absolutely devastated.
The mines were closed and along came British coal to get the same coal that could have been retrieved by more environmentally sensitive methods and less damning for the people who worked there.
There's always going to be the old dying off and the new reappearing because gas and oil is going to run out. It'll reach a peak in the 1990s and then people will be turning back to coal again and more or less demanding it.
When the government had a plan to like close the whole industry in a whole area and leave it just barren, to me was just like, right, they just rape the area really of its jobs and then turn around and saying, find a job.
It is most certainly a Category D village, and that means there can be no capital development, at least for the future.
The whole village was built around this coal mine. Men that were used to getting up and working a 40-hour shift a week, sweating and working to feed their families, were suddenly lost, devastated.
This is a working class town built on working class principles, and watching the mines go and not be replaced with something to keep the men in employment, it kind of ripped the heart out of the town. Some people have blood going through our veins. I think we've all got coal dust. It doesn't matter to me what I achieve in life. I'm still going to be a miner's daughter, and I'm damn well proud of that.